Until we have jobs, then we cannot be patriotic. Is that what we're saying?
What the camera person just said is a perfect example of how we should build love for Zimbabwe.
If there's too much negativity online, in the diaspora, in the country, how do we attract the much needed investment?
This is OpenParlyLIVE.
Hello and a warm welcome to OpenParlyLIVE. My name is Lynette Manzini. Thank you very much for joining us today. In today's conversation, we look at patriotism. Can patriotism be really meaningful if it's legislated, if it's enforced by law? So parliamentarians have been discussing the issue of patriotism the past week, and some parliamentarians are saying, let's legislate patriotism. Let's enforce it by law and let's teach it from preschool to university level. Let us know what you think in the comment section. But joining me in today's conversation is Emakhandeni-Luveve constituency MP, Honorable Discent Collins Bajila. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Lynette, for having me.
Are you a patriotic citizen?
I'm very patriotic.
What makes you patriotic?
What makes me patriotic is that I love Zimbabwe. I'm optimistic that there are things that we need to do right, and Zimbabwe can be a great place for everyone.
But other honorable members say that, like Honorable Mapiki says that we need to legislate patriotism because people are not showing love of the country. What are your thoughts?
Well, patriotism is love. You cannot come up with a rule that says, love this, don't like that, don't do this. What you need to do is to take actions that prove that you love and that you are lovable. If Zimbabwe gives, the people of Zimbabwe will give more. So we need to work on building Zimbabwe so that it gives its people more, so that they love it more. That's all what love is about. Coming up with laws on love will not work.
I want us to talk about two issues you raised. Love. You don't force people to love, but how can you tell that people love their country? And you also speak to Zimbabwe. You say that Zimbabwe should give people so that they can love it. Who is Zimbabwe? Is Zimbabwe an individual that you can walk up to and say, you're not giving me enough?
Well, the progress and the lack of progress in Zimbabwe lies squarely in the hands, lies squarely in the feet and in the hands of government. So when we say Zimbabwe should, we are putting it squarely at the feet of government. The things that government need to do is to ensure that our people have jobs. When our people have jobs, they will have no reason to leave Zimbabwe. They will have no reason to express their disappointment about lack of jobs in Zimbabwe, because jobs will be there. So when people express their disappointment about lack of jobs, it is misunderstood to say they don't like their country. When people make their disappointments about erratic energy situation in the country, it is misunderstood to say that these people do not love their country. The very fact that these people are voicing out these things, it means that they love their country. They wish that their country could have these things so that they could stay here, so that they could contribute more to the growth and development of Zimbabwe. So the expression of these things that are truly happening in Zimbabwe is an expression determined or moved by the love for their country.
Do you think that this motion seeks to infringe on freedom of expression?
I think so. Firstly, because it speaks to determining what people should say and they should not say about things that they see in their country. It speaks to saying if somebody has a problem with their car that emanates from a pothole, they should speak about a pothole from a position of hope. And when in actual fact they have a problem that emanates from the pothole. It says that if our people do not have electricity, they should express the absence of electricity from a position of hope, from a position of happiness. So it seeks to control what people can say about the things that they see and the things that they experience, no matter how horrible, no matter how undesirable they are. So the freedom of expression seeks to be, the freedom of expression is being infringed upon by this motion.
One of the honorable members suggested that we're not doing a good job in marketing this country. He says that we are always accusing a government of corruption, government officials of corruption with no proof, and he called that being unpatriotic, and that's why he's supporting this motion. What is your response to that?
Well, the fact that someone accuses another of any vice doesn't mean that they do not like them. At homes, children accuse each other of stealing sugar. Sometimes they fail to produce proof. It doesn't mean that somebody hates their brother.
But that can be malicious.
Malice happens everywhere. The fact that it doesn't mean that because you are malicious, you are not patriotic. It doesn't mean that because you are malicious, you do not like this person. People are accusing others of rape, and there's no proof. People have gone to jail, accused of murder, only to be proven to be innocent when they are already serving in jail. This doesn't mean that the person who made the accusation hates the other person or is doing it just out of spite. Some of the things could be issues of someone having a suspicion about what is happening. On a serious note, if somebody contributes money to a community development project and it does not suffice, they've got reasonable grounds to suspect that their money has been stolen. If somebody knows that every day I buy airtime, there is tax that is deducted from me to make sure that the health sector is better funded. When they get sick and they get to a hospital and the health sector is malfunctional, they have reasons to suspect that their tax has been abused. That doesn't mean that the person doesn't like their country. That doesn't mean that there is a problem with the person's mindset. And that doesn't mean that this person should be institutionalized to accept that your tax contribution can be misdirected and you should accept it even if it is so. It doesn't mean that.
Here you're already highlighting some of the problems we're facing in this country, and your colleagues from the other aisle will call you unpatriotic. But hold on to that thought. In case you're just joining us, you are tuned into Open Parly Live. My name is Lynette Manzini, and joining me is Honorable Discent Collins Bajila, and he's talking to us about patriotism. Some honorable members are suggesting that patriotism should be taught in schools and should also be legislated. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comment section. Some say that when you call government officials corrupt, that is simply unpatriotic. Honorable member, we were talking about calling people corrupt, accusing people of corruption without proof. Doesn't that do a disservice to the country, especially when we're looking for investment? Investment is also about perception of the operating environment. If there's too much negativity online, in the diaspora, in the country, how do we attract the much needed investment?
Well, attracting investment means that we also need to be honest and open about ourselves. People will not ask anything about issues relating to tax justice, issues relating to abuse of public resources and so forth and so forth. People will not even make accusations of corruption if they see that their contribution to the country's well-being is making sense. But as long as people are not seeing these things happening, they will ask questions on why are things like this. And that does not mean that they are not loving their country. But we live in a global village. So sometimes people will be saying these things not for the consumption of somebody external. They will be speaking amongst themselves. Unfortunately, in the global village that we now live in, somebody else will be listening who is not in Zimbabwe, who may have interests in investing in Zimbabwe. But we need to prove also that these things which the people are saying are not true. But as it stands right now, the absence of proof that there is corruption has not meant proof that there is no corruption. It's simply that those who have got the infrastructure to conduct investigations might not have done their job to the fullest, might not have gotten enough support from the state apparatus to do their investigations.
And some are arguing that if this were to come into effect, it would mean a lot of indoctrination in schools, because Honorable Mapiki is suggesting that let's teach patriotism, teaching love. You have already said you cannot teach love from primary school to university.
This one has already failed before it starts.
Why do you say so?
Our curriculum is heritage-based. It basically teaches our children where do we come from, who are we as Zimbabweans, what does Zimbabwe comprise of, what does it mean to operate in the context of a Zimbabwean development. Heritage-based education throughout primary and secondary education. When you get to tertiary education, there are courses such as National and Strategic Studies that bring forth these issues. When you leave a school, there are institutions that had been established before, like the National Youth Service, now called the Youth Service in Zimbabwe, and so forth and so forth. We have graduates of these institutions who have done so bad for this country to the same extent that those who haven't gone through these things have done. So there has been no difference between those who went through these trainings and those who didn't. So it's a sign that it is not working. It's a sign that the formula is not giving us the desired results. So to then say you now need to establish an institution for these things is problematic. It is problematic because you also speak about ideologies and so forth and so forth. We are not a one-party state. We can't have one ideology for everyone in Zimbabwe. Somebody can be a communist and love their country. Somebody can be a liberal and love their country. So patriotism transcends issues of our ideological differences. The love for Zimbabwe must constrain us not to be corrupt, not to be violent, not to be divisive, but to produce and to present Zimbabwe for truly what it is. If Zimbabwe has electricity problems, we need to produce and present it as what it is.
I know this is very unusual to bring in the views of a camera person. So the team behind the scenes, one of our camera persons, Mike, is saying he supports this idea of patriotism, but we'd like him to tell you why, and then you can respond to him. Mike?
So with patriotism, I'm just going to set a quick example of why we should be patriotic. For example, I'm just going to look at the side of the entertainment industry. I'm going to bring in Professor Jonathan Moyo. He installed patriotism through music, through arts, and look at how the local music industry is now respected and how it has boomed. Why? Because of that patriotism. So we need to find a way to insert that patriotism, like you said, in the National Youth Service. I think the curriculum there is not yet that strong to promote patriotism. Look at China. It's where it is because of patriotism. Look at America. It's all because of patriotism. Look at Japan.
Thank you for not stealing the show, but thank you very much. So he's arguing, and it leads me to my next question, to say there was an argument in Parliament that Rwanda, Singapore, North Korea have legislated successfully patriotism, and it's working, and it has brought about national unity and a sense of ownership. How do you respond to this argument plus what our camera person has just said?
What the camera person just said is a perfect example of how we should build love for Zimbabwe.
How we should?
Yes.
Okay.
The music industry, the entertainment sector, under the leadership of Professor Jonathan Moyo at that point in time, gave artists space to operate. And they came in large numbers and they introduced these new music genres and so forth, because space was created for them within their country.
But they had brought in barriers. They had put in barriers so that other people will not bring in their music, right?
Yes, but space was created. I don't want to talk about other people.
Okay.
I want to talk about Zimbabweans. Space was created for Zimbabweans to have creative freedom and they express themselves and they explore what is it that they can do. And a lot of young people in Zimbabwe came forth and we saw the development of new music genres. Imagine if that much space for operation was created for Zimbabweans in each and every sector. Zimbabweans will be there. Right now, as we speak, Zimbabweans are graduating out of universities. There is no space for them to go and explore what they have known. And therefore, when they then express themselves and say, there is no space for us to practice what we have learned, it is misunderstood to mean that they are unpatriotic. They do not love their country. All they are saying is, I have gone to the University of Zimbabwe, I have gone to the Michigan State University, I have gone to NUST, I have acquired this skill. I want to contribute my skill to the development of Zimbabwe. Where should I go? If that person says, where should I go? You are saying you are unpatriotic. That becomes the problem. Coming to the example of other countries, if you check what these countries have done to arrive at where they are, I love the Chinese model. The Chinese model has done a proper heritage-based education. It has taken the people of China, all of them, back to where they came from, and they introduced their history, their styles of life into modern living. At the end of the day, a Chinese can be able to trace for you how they lived and what they did up to 1,000 years, up to 5,000 years ago. Today, we pretend to be teaching a heritage-based education in Zimbabwe and so forth. But nobody knows, through the books that we have in our country, what is the history of the Tonga people of Zimbabwe? How did we have Ndau people in Zimbabwe? But if you go to China, if you go to Rwanda, the histories of everybody are told. They are there. Here in Zimbabwe is the pieces that are convenient to whosoever in power that are there. How do we have the Changan people of Zimbabwe? How do we locate them in the Mutapa state? What was happening to them? All that is not there. So we are faking this and faking that and faking that and forcing it on our people through the education system, calling it love, calling it patriotism, calling it heritage, when in actual fact we are just trying to make up appearances through the education system. So it's our holistic approach, and these countries that have done so have not done bits and pieces. They've been holistic, they've told the histories of their people. They've gone in China to say, if there was a person who stayed in this village who was a good builder, how did they do it? Let's bring them to the system, let them teach our children. And the children have grown knowing that in this village there is something for me, and they like that village.
Now that we have established that it's not a good way to go, according to your submissions, legislating patriotism or even teaching it, because you say you cannot teach love, how can we quickly bring people together? Because there's a lot of polarization in this country. We're not united as a people. Even when there are Twitter wars, they call them Twitter wars, we're not even united to come together like what other countries do. What can we do to install that sense of unity and togetherness as a people, despite our political
when our people have jobs, they will have no time to see their differences.
My argument there is jobs cannot be created in a week. It's a process. What do we do? So until we have jobs, then we cannot be patriotic. Is that what we're saying?
We are patriotic. It's an illusion that because people are identifying challenges that they face in their communities, they are not patriotic. The people of Zimbabwe are very patriotic. They wish Zimbabwe well. That is why they keep on expressing that if this and that were to be resolved, Zimbabwe will be better. Those are sentiments that are made out of love. Our people love our country. That is why they are saying the things that they are saying. I love my country. That is why I'm saying the things that I'm saying. So in order for the people of Zimbabwe to be more united and for our love for our country to lead to prosperity, because at the present moment, our love for our country is causing a disharmony, because we are loving our country in silos. We are not loving our country together. Yes. So we are loving our country, that one is loving the country there, that one is loving. For us to be able to love our country together, we must have jobs. When people are busy at work, they will have no time foreseeing their differences. When people have got internet that is running young people in their different spaces, they will spend their time doing their creative work online and so forth. They will have no time for differences. When people have water, they will have no time to say this one has a better borehole than this one. How many boreholes are in that village compared to boreholes in that village? If there is water for everyone, these differences will not be there. They will not be seen. So those are the things that we need to focus on. Our people need not be saying, but there is an electricity line that passes over my head, yet I have no electricity, but someone at that end has it. Once we deal with energy sufficiency, we deal with access to water, we deal with the issues of our roads, our people will not be asking, why have you built an interchange here and not there? Because interchanges will be everywhere. So once we focus on our national development, once we focus on loving our country developmentally, all these differences are most probably likely to disappear, because somebody will be happy. Someone who stays in Murewa will find no reason to ever leave Murewa for Harare, for Mutare, for everywhere, because whatever they want to do to achieve or to arrive at self-actualization will be there in Murewa. That's my philosophy of a better Zimbabwe.
On that note, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Lynette.
There you have it, viewers. That was Honorable Discent Collins Bajila, and he was talking to us about patriotism. He was responding to a question: can patriotism be effective and meaningful if it's legislated? Let us know what you think in the comment section down below. My name is Lynette Manzini. Goodbye.
This is OpenParlyLIVE.